Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you made a business decision thinking globally, even if you were operating locally? The companies that are winning today aren't just competing in their local markets anymore. They're seeing differently, and they're thinking differently. Good morning, everyone. I'm Edwina Kulego, Vice President of Global Business Development and Growth at Fashion by Informa. And I am extremely honored to be with you here all today, celebrating 25 years of ECEF. And today, I'm excited to talk to you about a subject that has completely transformed my career. The power of having a global mindset, even if you operate locally. Have you ever traveled to a destination that completely changed your perspective? Could have been vacation with your family or a business trip that really changed your perspective on life, on business, on culture. For the past 16 years, I've had the privilege of working across international markets. And yes, travel is a part of it. But it's not the travel that has changed me. It's the exposure. It's the exposure to different ways of seeing things and different ways of solving problems. And the leaders who understand that are the ones who are creating the biggest opportunities today. So let's have some fun. Take out your phones, scan the QR code, and tell me about a destination that you've traveled to that completely changed your perspective. Don't overthink it, just type in whatever comes to mind. I'm excited to see, okay. Singapore, Dubai, I was there last year for the first time, incredible. Alaska, never been there. Iceland, Philippines, Botswana, South Africa, Spain, Japan, that's like my favorite destination. Venice, Spain. Okay, so we have an international crowd, that's awesome. Thank you for participating. So, we have the world at our fingertips today. We have access to more information, people and diverse talent, markets, and consumer behavior, more than we've ever had before. And with the acceleration of AI, this will only continue to grow. So the question is, what do we do with all of this information? All of this global access? Do we ignore it, or do we lean in? Let's say you're accessing your attendee information, and you see a growth from attendees from Asia. You can study that, you can survey those customers, you can find a way to acquire them and build your business. That is what I have been doing over the past couple of years. This is how global thinking starts. Not with expansion, but with awareness. So before I dive into how my team and I built a multi-million-dollar global business division at Fashion by Informa, I would like to take you all back to a special place, my humble beginnings. Can anyone spot little me, little Edwina, in this elementary school photo? Yep, that's me in the pink overall with red gloves on. And you're probably thinking, who takes elementary school photos in the snow? Swedes do. I was born and raised in Sweden, in Malmö, Sweden, to be exact, which is the most multicultural city in Sweden. So as you can see in this school photo, I grew up with many different cultures, many different languages, different ways of doing things from an early age. I went to an international school because my immigrant parents from Ghana wanted to make sure that I always had access to the world. And this is a mentality that stuck with me throughout high school. So in high school, I also went to an international school where I got to do an exchange program in Nantes, France. So I lived with a French host family. And in my last year in high school, I did a study of the Catalan identity in Barcelona. So those two experiences completely changed my perspective. And so after high school, I decided to take a break. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I took a year's break with the blessing of my mom, and I started working in retail. So my first job was at Zara in Copenhagen. So I would take the train from Malmo to Copenhagen, and I would work at Zara every day. And that is where my passion for fashion, cliche, I know, but that's where it grew. I started working in the store, helping women, anyone really come in to solve whatever fashion issue they had. I just broke up with my boyfriend, I'm looking for a revenge dress, or I'm going to a wedding, or I'm meeting my partner's family for the first time. It brought me so much joy to help these customers find what they were looking for. And so fashion was an expression. And so my mom was like, well, you've been there for a year and I don't hear about college or university, so what is it going to be? And I said, well, I want to study fashion. And she said, then you should probably do that in a city where fashion thrives. So I applied for school in London and in New York. And 3 months later, I was in New York City at 19 years old. For the first time, I got a scholarship at Berkeley College to study fashion. And so my last year in college, I fell into the world that we live in, that we all live in, the world of trade shows. My last internship at college was at Project Trade Show, a menswear show. And I remember the company told me that I would be going to Las Vegas. And I was like, called my mom and I was like, oh my God, this company is sending me to Vegas. Little did I know, I was going to be worked at that convention center. We all know how much walking and talking and networking, but it was a great experience. And there were many acquisitions that happened. I know there's some UBMers in the room, but Project and Magic were owned by Advanstar. Advanstar was acquired by UBM, and then Informa acquired UBM. So here we are today, 16 years later. And so I worked as an intern, executive assistant to the CEO, and then I went into sales as an account executive. And in 2013, I asked a very specific question. What if? What if there was a dedicated salesperson focusing on international business? Now you can see where I'm going here. I love to travel. I love to try different foods, and so I wanted to find a lane in sales, in trade shows, where I could continue to see the world. And it worked. I proposed it to the CEO, and he said, well, we don't have an international salesperson at Project, and so you should go for it. And that's what I did. I went to work immediately. One of the first things I did was translate our sales kits into the languages of the countries that were most represented at our trade shows. So that was Spanish, Italian, and French. The second thing I did was start to connect with trade associations and consulates. Now these are organizations, as you know, that have a built-in system to support international trade and export. And so I found a lot of resources, information, and supports from these associations. We also started hiring agents, which I'll dive into a little bit deeper because that was one of our biggest success factors. So as a result, by these three initiatives, translating the sales kits, connecting with the trade associations and consulates, and hiring international agents, we increased the global brand awareness of our events. More people knew about Magic, Project, and Coterie. We increased our international attendees because they wanted to come and see not only the US brands, but the international brands that we were getting at the shows. We increased our funding, which Informa was very happy about because that led to an increase in revenue. We also launched our very first international show, Magic Japan. I would like to know if you work with any international trade associations or consulates. So scan the QR code, please, and let me know. I did a search of or not consulates and embassies within a 5-mile radius from this location, and over 100 came up. So even though we're all here local, we have access to the world at our fingertips. Okay, so we have a lot of yeses. Yes, I had a feeling we had an international room. Some no's. Interested? Let's talk about it afterwards. Okay, so the agent model. This was an initiative that completely accelerated and drove our success in the international division. Why? Because our agents had faster access to markets. They were living there. There was no time difference. They spoke the language. They built stronger relationships quicker. They were able to give us more insights. And it was a lower risk, right? We didn't have to open up offices in Paris, in Milan, in Tokyo. We had agents on the grounds that were representing Informa. So instead of opening offices everywhere, which is slow and expensive, we partnered with people who were already there. I have one more note on the agents. We have over 20 international agents today that I work with, my team and I collaborate with. And we have a monthly agent meeting where we discuss all the things that are happening in the world. Tariffs, trade conflicts, opportunities. And so these agents share valuable insights with me and my team. And what I do is I take that information back to leadership and we use that to make decisions. Another very important factor in having the agent meetings is it helps me de-risk our business. So if our agents in Asia are having a hard time, I can put a little bit more pressure on our South American agents or our European agents to help balance the business. So 3 years after I asked that very important question, what if, in 2017, a colleague and I built Informa's first international business development department. So we were able to grow our team, and within a year of launching this department, we grew revenue by over 30%. That not only represented millions in revenue, but it allowed us to hire more people to support. It increased our budgets to travel, hire more agents, and connect with the world. But more than that, it allowed the company to see our international path as a value and as a true division, not just a side project or, oh, you know, Edwina is our international salesperson. It became a substantial driver of our growth and a division that I have the pleasure of running today with the team. Okay, who loves McDonald's? Don't be shy, it's a guilty pleasure. We're in the US, so you know we can talk about the iconic brand. I brought this here today because I want to talk about this iconic meal. Many of us may think that the Happy Meal was born in the US, but it wasn't. It was born in Guatemala. A local franchise owner decided to launch this meal because when families came to eat, they realized that the meals were too big for the children. And also the children were restless. And so while the family was eating, they couldn't figure out what to do. So the franchise owner decided to create a smaller meal so that the kids could enjoy and not waste food, but also included a toy that they could play with. And this became a huge success for their franchise. And they didn't hold that information in. They decided to share it with headquarters in Illinois. And instead of McDonald's saying, that might work in Guatemala, doesn't work for us here in the US, they had a global mindset and they adapted. And today, all of us have access to this iconic Happy Meal. And that is the power of a global mindset. Instead of ignoring it, they lean in, they adapted, and that is truly powerful. Okay, now the second case study, very, very proud of. This was such a special moment in my career and for our company. As many of you know, Magic is over 90 years old, and it was born on the West Coast, and it lives in Las Vegas. Throughout the years, we also brought Magic to New York, and we also launched Magic Miami in 2023. Now, one of the key deciding factors in launching the show in Miami was our international, the desire for South American attendees and buyers to come to Miami. Miami has always been a destination for South America, and so once we started picking up on the interest, we started surveying those customers. And so we built relationships with them. We started having conversations about what it would take for them to come to Miami to attend the show. We started having conversations about sponsorship opportunities. Long story short, based on that information and many other factors, we launched Magic Miami. And we also hired our agents, our sales agents in Colombia and in Peru to communicate with them in Spanish. And so that was one of the things that really helped us decide if we're going to launch Magic Miami or not. So instead of ignoring the signals, we leaned in, we shared information, and the results was just not value for our exhibitors. It was value for the attendees. It resulted in long-lasting partnerships, sponsorships, and we were able to really build a great case. And the best part of it is that the success of Miami started spilling back into Magic Las Vegas and Magic New York. So one of the most important things I've learned is that the biggest risk in doing international business is not difference. It's not about how different we are. It's about misunderstanding. I'll give you an example. When we launched Magic Japan, I started spending more time in Tokyo. I was there every 6 months for the shows, but also building relationships for our events in New York and Las Vegas. And as we were having our initial meetings, I would leave feeling so excited, yes, these guys, they love us. They were nodding, they were taking notes, they were smiling. So I would leave every meeting high-fiving my boss saying, we got this one. And little did I know that Japanese business culture has a lot to do with politeness. And so being polite, nodding, smiling, and being agreeable is a sign of respect. It was no sign that we had a deal or a contract. And so that was a very important lesson that I learned in doing business in Japan. And over the years, I've learned many of those lessons in different places in the world. So yes doesn't always mean yes when you're doing business globally. Silence can signal respect. Speed looks different everywhere. Scandinavians, I grew up in Sweden, were very prompt. And so if someone is coming into a meeting 5-10 minutes late, we're kind of frowning and wondering if they're okay. But in other places in the world, that's totally fine. So, in order to be successful in working across many different markets, you have to listen beyond words. Build relationships intentionally, and having curiosity is a part of that. That's what's really helped me over the years. And respect different decision-making timelines. When you do that, you're able to pick up on insights, you gain awareness, and you have more curiosity, which supports your global efforts. The power of diverse teams. Look at these stats. Diverse teams are 36% more likely to outperform financially, according to McKinsey. Diverse teams make better decisions up to 87% of the time. Now, when we think about diversity, our mind typically goes to race, gender, age, but diversity is also about your background, your experiences, what you've been able to learn, and what you bring to the table. And so, diverse teams don't just look different, they think differently. And that is where better decision-making comes in, faster innovation, and as a result, you have a stronger performance. And so I urge everyone to look around your organization, think about the teams that you're working with, and sometimes it's about moving people and teams around. That is something that I found extremely valuable, not only with my internal team at Informa, but with our external team of agents. In uncertain times, great leaders, they don't pull back. They lean in. They listen more. They connect more. And they think bigger. Because you don't need to operate globally to think globally. So before you leave here today, I urge you to look around your organization. Examine those global signals. Look around your teams. Bring diverse perspectives into the room. Strengthen your relationships. Look at your data. That is one of the things that has helped me the most, is paying attention to those cues. Because global business is not about where you are. It's all about how you think. Thank you.
We actually have time, if you're okay,
yes.
for a few questions.
Yes, I wasn't sure how the time would play out, but yes, we can.
We have like time for questions. Maybe 1 or 2 questions, if anybody has any. Okay. I'll do a question.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Sam.
Give us an example of how a diverse group of people changed a decision you or Informa were about to make.
I mean, I think that when you're working with a diverse team, or I know that, it's not oneness in the room, right? And so you're going to have different ways of solving a problem or getting to the answer. A concrete example of that is when we were working, well, Don and I know about this, on our education in Las Vegas. Sometimes we make decisions when we collaborate on, the speakers, what kind of conversations we want to have on the subjects. But when you are asking your team, that is a diverse team, you may have a different roster of speakers that are coming. It may be an international speaker that I've never heard of that speaks on a specific topic, or someone that we wouldn't have considered, someone that doesn't sit on our target list. And so in general, when you have a diverse team, when it comes to the results that you get or the findings or the research, it may look very differently than you initially thought. And so bringing in different points of view sometimes leads to just more conversation. Sometimes we end up just having more of a dialogue about why we should go about something in a different way.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions over here, please?
I see one over here.
Thank you.
Great presentation, Edwina.
Thank you.
Given that most of us have not had the same experience as you have had, what's one step we can all take to do it?
Yeah, I would start with looking at your data. So if there are any global signals, usually your attendee information or your exhibitor information will tell you that. Sometimes you can look at just the leads that come in from your website or from social media. And if there is a correlation, or if there's a group of attendees, let's say, that are interested in attending your events or have been coming for a while, and you're like, okay, I keep seeing growth from Asia, or there's a lot of South American buyers or attendees that keep coming to this event. Maybe I should start reaching out to someone on the grounds that are in events. Like most of the agents that we've found at Informa that have been successful are agents that used to run fashion showrooms or used to work in the trade show space. So we're always going to go for agents or partners that are in the realm of fashion or trade shows. And then they might visit trade shows in their home base, in their home country, and share insights that help us determine if there's someone that can help us bring in more leads, more attendees. So I would start by just looking at your information. Sometimes you can walk around your show floor and notice different languages, or start picking up on an attendee base that you haven't noticed before. So I would just look around and pay attention to what you're seeing now, and then start building relationships from there.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, why don't you take a second, please, and do a shout out about from intern to VP, please.
Okay, so as you all know in my story, I started as an intern at Project Trade Show, and now I'm still involved in that business as the Vice President of Global Business Development. And over the years, when I meet with people, especially people early on in their careers, interns, they're like, well, how did you do it? How did you go from intern to VP, and what can you share? And so this year in January, I decided to launch a platform called From Intern to VP. And in that awakening, and there was a moment at the top of the year where I was like, I want to start building a platform where I can share the tools that I've learned over the years. Sometimes it's not just the successes, sometimes I share failures, things that kind of hindered my success. We talk about imposter syndrome a lot. A lot of the audience will ask me, what is it like to be a woman in corporate, or what is it like to be a Black woman, and how are you received when you travel? So the topics vary and they range, but it is a weekly series that I have launched on social media, so you can find that on Instagram or on LinkedIn, and I try my best to record them. I definitely missed it this week, but I share my insights and I have dialogue, and it's been really helpful for me to receive feedback and to also share my journey.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.